I think we'll start, and people will join as we go along. Welcome, everyone. This is the second webinar, actually, on quantum technology in Canada, hosted by Mitacs. I'm John Hepburn, the CEO of Mitacs. My great pleasure to be here with you today. I'll say right off the bat that I have a meeting that I have to go to just before 1, so I will leave, but you're all welcome to stay if the discussion is going on at a high level. And my colleague, Reza Rezai, who's actually responsible for putting all this together, is going to moderate the discussion. I'll start off with a brief presentation on really the strengths that we have in Canada in quantum technology. And the goal of this webinar is to discuss both the strengths that we have in Canada, especially the academic strengths, but also what are the possible connections between academic strength and industry need. Really, how do we build a healthy quantum ecosystem in Canada that actually takes advantage of the, as you'll see, we have tremendous strength in quantum technology coast to coast. And we're going to be hearing from 6 panelists who represent 6 centers of quantum expertise and activity. And they will be having a discussion after I finish my, what hopefully will be a very brief presentation. I'll stress that the presentation, although it's brief, there's a lot of detail. I'm going to skip pretty quickly through the detail because the presentation will be made available to everybody at this webinar at some point after the webinar is finished, and Reza can provide details on that at the end of the webinar when he's moderating the discussion. So Reza, if I could get you to put the slides up. There we go. I'm on the road, so I'm speaking to you from an iPad, and it's don't have access to screen sharing easily. So this is industry access to Canadian academic quantum expertise, as I was saying. It's the second in our quantum series. The first one some weeks ago was very successful. These are the 6 experts, and you can see we've chosen people from across the country in several different centers of expertise, starting in Sherbrooke, going on through other centers in Ontario, to Alberta, and finally to where I live in Vancouver. I'm in Toronto today, but normally I'm in Vancouver. So next slide. We'll hear from all 6 of these people, by the way. This is, of course, Mitacs, and I won't read this all to you, but Mitacs exists to empower Canadian innovation. And Mitacs has a yet to be finalized mandate from ICED to support talent development and applied research in quantum technology. So we have a mandate as part of the National Quantum Strategy, which our panelists are all familiar with. And so we're quite excited about the opportunity to help build the quantum ecosystem in Canada. Next slide. So here we are. This is where the 6 speakers are coming from. So you can see the sort of expertise that's represented on this call. We don't have, obviously, representatives from all of the places, but we have people who are leaders in the various areas that we're highlighting, and that's Sherbrooke, Ottawa, Toronto, Waterloo, Calgary, and Victoria / Vancouver / Burnaby, basically the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island in British Columbia. Next slide. We'll start with Quebec. Actually, put it back, Reza, because of the shiny new building that I was in not so very long ago. There's a lovely new building on the University of Sherbrooke campus. Encourage everyone to visit. It's really very, very nice. We'll see lots of nice buildings. This is a new, shiny field. So flip to the next slide. Quantum in Quebec. Of course, everybody knows Gilles Brassard in Montreal, one of the more prominent Canadian quantum researchers. But we're going to hear from the Sherbrooke. Basically, there's all sorts of activity going on in Sherbrooke and Bromont. There's a quantum computer that's either installed or being installed from an IBM machine. But we're going to hear from the gang at Sherbrooke. Christiane will talk to us. And really, as a relatively small center, it's a real powerhouse of quantum technology. And you can see, you know, as everywhere, there's a distribution of quantum expertise in Quebec. Next slide. This is the innovation zone, zone d'innovation. The Quebec government, of course, has published an innovation and investment strategy. There's a lot of money going into innovation in Quebec. That's a lesson for all the other provinces. I mean, I think that Quebec is kind of ahead of the game in this business in terms of government involvement. And I salute my Quebec colleagues for being so effective at their provincial government relations that they're getting this very healthy investment in quantum technology, a lot of it localized in the Sherbrooke-Rosemont area. Next slide. This is just, and I'm absolutely not going to read all these things to you. This is just an indication of the both the corporate and, you know, sort of not-for-profit interactions in the area. And as I say, a lot of them are localized in the Sherbrooke-Rosemont area, but this is distributed throughout Quebec. It's a very, the Quebec government has declared actually some years ago that they're quite invested in quantum technology, and they're investing even more now. So a lot of stuff going on there. Next slide. Another shiny building. There we go. This one I haven't been in yet, so look forward to the opportunity to visit. I've driven by it many times. This is the, of course, University of Ottawa campus. And Ottawa, as you know, has tremendous strength in quantum technology. You can see that with their partners at the bottom. They've got a Max Planck Center in photonics, a lot of expertise in photonics. My friend Paul Corkum, of course, we keep waiting for the Nobel Prize announcement for him. He's won everything else. But in addition to Paul, of course, there's all sorts of expertise in the Ottawa area, University of Ottawa, actually all the institutions in Ottawa. A lot of expertise, particularly in photonics, but in general in quantum technology in the Ottawa area. So very exciting things going on there. Next slide. This is, I'm not going to read you this. Of course, there's all sorts of fantastic scholars and people working there, a lot of activity across the board in Ottawa. And again, you're going to get these slides afterwards, so don't worry about me not reading all this detail. Next slide. Toronto, here we go, where I am now. So Toronto, I know very well, having done my PhD there, know the colleagues there, co-published with people in this Center for Quantum Information and Quantum Control, Moshe Shapiro and Paul Brummer. So this gang I know very well, a lot of expertise in Toronto, of course, a lot of money in Toronto. There's stuff going on there. And Xanadu, which I have visited, and others, Zapata, of course, the spin-off from University of Toronto. So Toronto is, again, another center of expertise, both in physics and in chemistry and in engineering, computer science now. So a lot going on there. Next slide. Now, of course, everybody's heard of Waterloo and Ray Laflamme et al. Again, you know, Mike Lazaridis is a big believer in, we have Quantum Valley, we have all this activity. And of course, University of Waterloo has not just IQC, but they've also got the Perimeter Institute. So again, real strength. And a lot of this strength came after I left the departments of physics and chemistry at Waterloo. So I kind of missed out on all this excitement, but I've been back to visit. And indeed, Waterloo is a globally recognized center for quantum technology. So well done, Waterloo. On to the next, this is the Institute for Quantum Computing, which is one of the original institutes in quantum computing in Canada. Again, Ray Laflamme was key in getting this going. And so again, this is an important institute, but you know, as I will keep stressing, one of many centers of expertise in Canada in quantum computing and quantum technology, although there's a lot of emphasis on quantum computing at IQC, as you can tell from its title. But you know, even post-quantum cryptography is an area, you know, Michele Mosca working on things like that. So there's lots of stuff going on. They have fabulous equipment there. And again, as with all the other things I'm talking about, a lot of academic expertise, a lot of students studying quantum technology. We care a lot about that at Mitacs, the talent potential at these institutions. And so the goal is to make sure that this talent and this expertise gets connected to the, what we hope is the rapidly growing quantum industry in this country. Next slide. Alberta. There's just no end of new buildings here. So The Alberta Ecosystem, you know, I dare not say that it's just in Calgary, but Calgary has emerged as a center for quantum technology, particularly quantum communications. So a very exciting initiative in Calgary is the Quantum City Initiative, and you'll hear more about that. But, you know, Calgary has been one of the leaders in quantum communication, entangled communication. And so this Quantum City Initiative, I think, is tremendous because it involves, the universities, but also the civic infrastructure. So I think this is fantastic. And also, of course, as with all the other centers I'm talking about, a more general development of quantum expertise and quantum technology. So, but I think in particular, the involvement of the city in this effort is I think, a really nice thing. Next slide. BC, my hometown there. So British Columbia, of course, a lot of strength in quantum materials in particular, general strength in quantum technology, but really the claim to fame here, in addition to two of the larger quantum companies, large in Canada means they've got 200 employees, D-Wave and 1QBit, of course, are both in the Lower Mainland. You've got expertise, Steph Simmons at SFU with her own company. University of British Columbia, where there's the another Max Planck Center, this one in quantum materials. By the way, Sherbrooke also does quantum materials. Know that gang very well. So, but you can see there's not just the academic expertise here, but you can see also the companies that are involved. So good BC ecosystem. Of course, there's the Quantum Algorithms Institute, which is getting up and going in BC. So again, a lot of excitement here. Next slide. This is us. Have to brag about us, of course. The quantum mandate I referred to earlier is a $40 million mandate, and that's for talent development. It's for collaborative research between industry and university. The collaborative research, of course, is always driven by students, what we call interns. It's an unfortunate term. I had some radio interviewer asking me if we paid our interns, because, of course, internship brings to mind unpaid interns. No, they're paid. These are graduate students and postdoctoral fellows typically. And we're finalizing the terms of that agreement with ICED. But again, part of the broader Canadian strategy. We've been working with quantum companies for years now, 1QBit from its very beginning. We funded in general, in all fields, more than $1 billion of funding for collaborative research projects. Of course, we're a membership organization. All the universities in Canada, most of the universities in Canada are our members, but we work with universities, colleges, and polytechnics across the country. And so we can do quantum technology from the research end on through to development and prototyping. We have, I'll go back one. We have a lot of international programs where we have an expanded agreement with CNRS, for example, of great deal of interest, and INRIA in France. We're going to be off to the UK to discuss partnerships there, but we have agreements with the major funding agencies and universities in 23 countries, but a lot of activity in Europe. The next slide. This is how we do things. And it's, when we say work integrated learning, of course, the Waterloo cooperative education model springs to mind. That's not what we do, and I can't stress that strongly enough. What Mitacs does is it connects an industry need, typically an industry applied research need, with academic expertise. And with the state of the quantum industry in Canada, it's at a nascent stage. And so a lot of academic expertise is needed to build the quantum industry. And so we have 120 business development professionals. There are 3 specializing in quantum that we'll see soon, but we won't go to their names yet. Reza is in the lead of our quantum strategy. So he's been very heavily involved in getting us up and running in the quantum space. Although, as I say, we have been doing collaborations with quantum companies since their very beginning. So we fund joint projects. It's 50% industry, 50% us. We're using taxpayers' dollars. We're supported by the Canadian government and all provincial governments. And this year, we expect to spend about $350 million this year supporting joint research projects. And of course, an extra 40 million will come in a 6-year funding agreement to support specifically quantum projects. That does include researcher mobility. We can fund collaborative projects, but our international programs also include researcher mobility. And so we connect the academic expertise with the industry need, and we also build international networks of expertise. And finally, I think the next slide is where I finish. These are the 3 people. Reza you see on the screen. He's the senior person, but Marie-Ève Boulanger is in Sherbrooke. I think she's defended her PhD now, but she worked with the Institut Quantique. Very, very strong researcher and now a very, very strong business development professional. May Siksik is in my hometown of Vancouver, and she's working with the Quantum Algorithms Institute and, of course, the local Vancouver Burnaby / Vancouver Island ecosystem that we're going to hear about. So you have their contact information there. It's always very simple. It's first initial and last name at mitacs.ca. These are the folks to get in touch with. If you can't remember these other names, get in touch with Reza and he'll direct you to the right person. These are the people to talk to if you have in mind a collaborative research project, and we're dying to support collaborative research projects and student and postdoc mobility. So I think, Reza, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to be in charge of keeping us on track from now on.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you. Thanks for the amazing presentation and telling us about different ecosystems. It is extremely rich. It may take hours and days of conferences, perhaps, to go through all the great activities, different centers doing quantum science research here in Canada, but we only have 1 hour, so we had to basically distill everything very much. But the good news is we are here. If you have any question about any of these ecosystems, we are more than happy to answer those. And since we don't have much time, without any further ado, I jump into and open our panel discussions. We start with you, Christian, and the question we have for you is basically tell us a little bit more about the strengths of your ecosystem. What are you guys really expert, well known for? And what industries, which verticals do you invite to come talk to you if they want to start collaboration with Quebec Quantum Ecosystem?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I think I've got the tough challenge of representing the whole of Quebec, so I'll try to make it possible. So from the Sherbrooke region, so John talked a bit about the Sherbrooke Innovation Zone. The ACES Quantique here at Sherbrooke is really strong in quantum materials, quantum information, and quantum engineering. I would say that with the Bromont region, we've got all the infrastructure and more in the quantum hardware tech, prototyping, and industrial scale. So any companies that would like to develop a new quantum technology in terms of hardware, we've got it all. Semiconductors, a MEMS foundry, could be photonics as well. So we're interested in those. We give access to companies to Dilfridge Electronics as well. So any new startups would be interested in trying a new technology inside of Dilfridge, we give access to that kind of equipment as well. John touched a bit about the IBM quantum computer that will be installed in Bromont. So we've got access to this. There's also Alien System that we can give access to industry as well through Calcul Québec. So from Sherbrooke, that's it, but Montreal is really close by. So for those that know where Sherbrooke is, it's a little bit kind of a south of Montreal, but the whole artificial intelligence community is a synergy that we've got with Mila, Ivado. It's something that's really great to have access to. So this is fantastic. There's 5 universities in Montreal doing quantum science and technology, so not negligible in terms of a critical mass of researchers. And I would say that you got to think about the photonics industry that we've got here in Quebec, both in Montreal, but in Quebec City as well. So Quebec City may not be known for quantum science and technology, but there's really a good photonics industry there that I think is begging to be tapped in terms of talent and expertise, more than I would say photonics, but I think they could be really useful leverage in terms of quantum technology and quantum photonics. A good example of this is the arrival of Pascal here in Sherbrooke, so a French company that was interested in the talent that we've got in quantum science and technology, but also having access to the photonics industry here that we have. It was also a key point, a selling point on making them install themselves here in Quebec. I would end in having a Quebec government that has its own funding agency and also its own investing arm is something that's really useful for us as well. So having a Sherbrooke Innovation Zone also gives us access to the investing arm of Quebec, which is Quebec Investissement Québec. So any company that might be interested in coming in have access to this. So having this two-prong attack between Canada and Quebec gives us a little bit more leverage in what we can do here in terms of funding research. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Christian. Ebrahim, same question for you. Tell us more about NexQT.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Reza and John and the colleagues for organizing this event. It's a great pleasure to be here and talking to Canadians and international as well. So regarding NexQT, as John mentioned, is based on expertise which scientists at University of Ottawa and NRC put through during last 20-30 years. So, and main activity at the University of Ottawa, as John mentioned, is based on photonics and extreme photonics, essentially, which it's clear from the international recognition based on having Max Planck Center at the University of Ottawa and also joint center with National Research Council Canada. So which is the two systems allows us to interact with scientists and also with industry to find new platforms, photonics platforms, and also materials as well in the photonic regime and using them for quantum science and technologies. So this is essentially I would say the strength. Of course, is not limited only to photonics or extreme photonics, extreme quantum photonics. Also, we have researchers which they are working on software and encryption techniques, which is I can mention Anne Broadband is one of the leaders in this field. We do have great scientists also working on ethics. So awareness and risks that they may face or government may face or companies may face due to the science and technology. We have also a location in Canada North, which I'm sure that most of you heard of these, is an environment which allows to interact with the industry. We have a lot of collaborations with photonic industry, with materials industry, and also recently we signed an MOU with Xanadu, which allows to exchange, let's say, ideas and using their platforms and also using their softwares in our courses and research activities. So this is mainly the activity at the University of Ottawa. I can go through all of them, but I think is enough to stop here.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ebrahim. Dvira, same question, and University of Toronto.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dvira Segal. I'm coming here from the University of Toronto. So at the university, what we have from the research point of view, we have a center of about 30 researchers from different departments: chemistry, physics, engineering, computer science, mathematics, and we are working together on different problems, all on the quantum area. So we have the researchers, we have the students, and I would say our strength is that we are very diverse. We cover different topics. There is excellence in all the different areas, whether it's quantum computing, hardware, software, algorithms, quantum materials, quantum communication, quantum optics, foundational questions of quantum science. So we are interested in all of this. We are trying to advance these topics. So that's about the core quantum research. But of course, there are other layers that we are very lucky to have here at the University of Toronto within the city, which is very attractive. There is a layer of the commercialization programs. We are lucky to have the CDL, Creative Destructive Lab, UTEST, there are accelerators, incubators, mentorship programs here that our students and researchers enjoy. And besides that, there are, of course, other institutions that feed into the system, whether it's a vector institution for artificial intelligence, where we have researchers, the boundary between these topics, working on quantum with machine learning. We have the Fields Institute for foundational research in the sciences. Again, we have very strong connections with them. with researchers coming to the fields, interacting with our researchers, and more to the industry. What interests, I guess, is for this meeting. There is a growing startup community in Toronto. We have very strong connections with them. Everyone already mentioned Xanadu, same for here, and other startups, as well as big corporations that have representatives in Toronto or are interested to work with our community. Yeah, so that's, and again, I would, of course, there is more, and I would be happy to talk more.
Great, thank you very much, Dvira. I would like to just add the Creative Destruction Labs quantum machine learning stream to Toronto, and it's a great ecosystem for quantum startups. Let's go from Toronto to Waterloo and IQC. Norbert.
Yeah, hi, my name is Norbert Liskenhaus. So I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Quantum Computing, and I'm representing not only IQC, but actually the whole quantum valley in Waterloo. There's an institute, basically an area of institutions like we have Perimeter is one of the big institutions over here, which is important. Important for us is indeed we work, I think, very well together in the region, but as well within Canada. It's very important for us always to make sure that we do the right connections between the different centers. So talking about as well the Institute for Quantum Computing on its own, and as well, basically, I think for the region, the one important thing is basically to really consider that we have several approaches that we actually use to support as well industry. Of course, on one hand, we have our research activities, which are of course the core and basically one of the attraction points about that we're doing. And IQC is basically around for now 20 years. And of course, we are originally one of the original big international centers that was set up, and we are quite broad in our activities, going from very fundamental questions about what does it mean to be that there's quantum advantage, but then really talking about platforms for quantum computing, talking about how to do compilers, talking about quantum communication complexity things. So these are basically the research basis on which we are drawing. But very important as well, if you think about the connection to industries, of course, what is the other very important resource, and this is just talent. So one of our focus points is indeed to develop more talent, and that includes, for example, new kind of graduate programs. It's clear already the academic stream about going master to a PhD, that is basically how we feed the emerging quantum industry. Right? And lots of the startup companies as well that were mentioned before, actually feeding, of course, from all our graduates. Right? And this is something that I think we develop more of these type of programs. And as well, I want to reach out as well to our colleagues, for example, from Calgary as well, who are setting up as well more of those programs. And I think that's very important that we do this. And the third part is really as well, when we think about the research, then we talk about the talent generation is as well, how do we enable interaction with industry? And here's something very important is to develop infrastructure that actually industry can as well use. And that is just something to really, that's this entry threshold that industry needs to take in order to come into the quantum world. How can we lower that one? And that's example, one of those is we have the quantum nano fabrication and characterization facility over here in Waterloo, which is used basically across Canada by universities, but as well by industry, from startup to established companies. And I think that is really kind of contribution that we are doing from our region. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Norbert. Indeed, great ecosystem. And we can never mention IQC or Waterloo Quantum Valley ecosystem without mentioning Perimeter Institute. Lots of expertise, lots of great quantum talent in that region. Thank you very much, Norbert. And Paul, please tell us more about Quantum City.
Great. So yeah, thanks for organizing this and for inviting me. The University of Calgary and Alberta more generally has a long history of quantum investment. So the Institute for Quantum Science and Technology began, I think, in 2006. And we've been building on that over the past decade or more. So most recently, this has come in the form of Quantum City, which is an investment from a significant investment in the sort of tens of millions of dollars range from the University of Calgary, as well as from the government of Alberta. This investment is focused on building up both our infrastructure. So we already heard about the Quantum Nano Institute, our fabrication facility in Waterloo. So infrastructure along these lines in Alberta, as well as training programs. So for example, a professional master's program that we gear towards, not physicists only, but people even with a business background potentially, as well as support for companies and innovation. On the research side, as John mentioned, there's been a long history of world-leading research in quantum networking and communication. We have most recently installed a satellite ground station to enable quantum communication in space, as well as the city-based stuff that John mentioned earlier. Quantum memory as well. There's also, I would say, a more emerging strength in quantum nano. This is building on the large investment in nanotechnology that was focused primarily at the University of Alberta. So we use nanofab heavily there, as well as many of the startups in kind of hardware type startups in Alberta have benefited from that significantly. And we're trying to expand that capacity with infrastructure in Calgary to complement it. As well, we have companies, coming online. One that we might highlight is in the low temperature physics or low temperature hardware. So 0-point cryogenics, for example, basically providing things like dilution fridges that we need for quantum experiments. I'll stop there.
Great, thank you very much, Paul. Co-chair, the same question and all the Western Canada.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm at University of Victoria, and the ecosystem in BC started out back in 1999 with D-Wave Systems, which is a very successful company with quantum hardware that can actually solve a realistic real-world problems right now. Now, of course, the challenge is to show that it has quantum advantage, provides advantage in some cases. And there's a lot of collaboration going on between D-Wave and the faculty at BC. Also, 1QBit. 1QBit is a software company. Now, the faculty at British Columbia, at the BC universities, including Victoria, UBC, and Simon Fraser, they have a diverse set of interests. So about 10 of them focus on hardware, including superconducting devices, semiconductors, and photonics. The other half focus on quantum algorithms. And in the area of quantum algorithms, there is a lot of interest in applying quantum computing to simulate chemistry and quantum materials. So I think that we are growing. We just hired 5 new faculty on both software and hardware. And I look forward to interacting with industry in BC and in other provinces as well.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that. And yes, we are coming to this session with the assumption that you guys are all interested in collaborating with different industries that might be benefited from quantum advantage. And that's great to know. And that actually leads me to the next question, and that's the role of universities to making these sort of partnerships happen to advance quantum research, basically, and innovation. What do you think about that? What do you think the role of universities should be on industry, academia collaboration, especially when it comes to quantum innovation, since it's such a young field? Christian, we start with you.
Well, I think we will all agree today that all the discussions about access to talent, right? And I think all the industry was looking for is the expertise and the talent, and where the talent lies, well, in the universities. So what I like about doing academia industry collaboration research, especially we're still at low TRL in most of the cases, so we can also do some pre-competitive research, which we don't have. We do not have to discuss IP from the beginning, is also building a trust relationship with a company. So especially with abroad companies or even for Canadian and others, you need to build that trust, and they want to have access to the talent as well. So in a way, when you're doing academia industry partnership together for a number of years, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's building that trust, but it's also kind of a long interview for probably your next employees, right, for the company. So getting tapped into that talent and also kind of having access to know the people there and building that trust means that you're building something that will last longer than just that specific collaboration. So in this way, I think we can really build strong relationship with those partners, and they also have access to the talent that we have, and they can basically learn all about them and then make them their next employees. And we've had many successes in some ways like this by building those long-lasting relationships. And now we've got partners that no longer relies on a Mitacs, let's say, scholarship or an NSERC alliances now, but they're now embedded in the ecosystem that we have now.
Great. We heard IBM is coming to be a part of your ecosystem and you're collaborating with them a lot. Is there any other notable players that you guys are collaborating on the industry side?
Well, we've got an office, of course, for 1QBit, and I think the main reason why they came in because they've got a talent in BC and in Waterloo, and now they want to have access to talent here in Sherbrooke. Keysight Technology, for example, is one of the multinationals that started to know each other and starting building that relationships, and now are wanting to install an office here and hiring our own students. So those are examples. The IBM example is something that's been a long-standing relationship between Sherbrooke and IBM for the last 30 years. Since there's a plant in Beaumont, but we now moved from an IBM Canada, let's say, packaging plant to something that's a little bit more high-tech and more than quantum computing. But it's great that it has been built upon a trust relationship like this that made it fantastic for us. So those are kind of examples. But even with foreign companies as well, it's like starting like this is a way to build a long-lasting relationship and makes it possible to build ecosystem all across Canada. I've given you a few examples, but I know that everyone here around the table will be able to give you other examples as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Christine. Same question, Ebrahim.
Yeah, well, I would go back and I ask myself what university can do. I mean, essentially, we are, I mean, as an institute, as a university, we do have greater talents in the country, which is researchers, is the money that we do have, is the talent of the people. So we can train the next generation and definitely excel the work of the people. And this is essentially built up based on, let's say, several decades of activities of people. And then for sure, we want to be linked to industry and we want to have a partnership with them. They will have, due to this interaction, they will have free access to the laboratories and do those state-of-art facilities and also the talent of the people. So I will link these two together. And of course, there are barriers. My colleague Christian mentioned is the IP is one of those main things which university and institute they are usually facing. Then how to handle these sort of things with industry. I will keep it in the minor priority because that can be discussed in a higher level, and definitely the role of Mitacs maybe also can help us in this way to figure out a standard, let's say, formalism for having an IP share between university or researchers and industry. So, well, this is the way that I'm thinking. They will have free access to the facility and to the talents of the people. And for sure, the goal is a goal-oriented, which can be achieved within a time, which is cost-effective also for industry as well. And in the general, it will help also the ecosystem of the country.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ebrahim. And very important point is the IP issue. And whenever it comes to these sort of collaborations, we need to make that, you know, it's always a concern on both sides that we need to address, and universities, Office of Research should, I guess, work more on that. And thank you very much, Dvira. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the question was about the university's role in building this partnership between universities and industry. So let me maybe take one step back. Some of our researchers are doing applied research. That's what they enjoy doing. And readily one can continue if they're to commercialization. So that's natural. However, many of our researchers are doing basic science. That's why they came to universities. They would like to do this discovery, curiosity-driven research. And it's not natural for them, or it's not what they have time for even, to think about applications and to move on to commercialization. We don't want to divest them. We don't want to change them. We want them to keep thinking about in this fundamental way. But the question is, how can we still bring these ideas with these very fundamentalized ideas and see whether there could be applications that industry would be interested. So this is what we see our role at the center, at the University of Toronto, to build mechanisms for building. So we are not enforcing immediately commercialization. The idea is first people need to come, talk together, see what are the problems that the industry have, what is the talent, what is the excellence that our researchers have. So that's one aspect. And indeed, we have programs. You can check our website for things that are forthcoming. Additionally, it was already mentioned, the students. So obviously, there is a professor who is really focused on the basic research. That's great. But their students are moving on to industry, many of them. So we would like the students to be trained such that they can deal with IP, that they can deal with these questions. So that's what we are trying to do, besides the basic research and the focus on the scientific questions, to also get the training on the business education and the entrepreneurship.
Very, very important aspects of everything, since this is a very new field. The students, exactly, they want to get into entrepreneurship side of things, the IP, and also, since the whole thing is new, like talking about use cases, applications, how could those industry get access to your expertise and learn which aspects of quantum technology may be useful to them and help them in being ahead in this race. Thank you very much, Dvira. Norbert, what do you think about universities and industry and university role in bringing industry collaboration?
Right. I think basically we should be clear and aware that, of course, things how technology transfer works is actually changing over time, right? The old model is that there's some university professor has a bright idea, gets a patent, right? And then somehow there's a big industry that takes on the patent and then commercializes it. That's not how it works, right? That is for sure not in our field at all how it works, right? So how is quantum industry actually coming in? But one thing is indeed, industry hires our graduate students, maybe not even thinking about quantum, and these bright people go in there and basically tell them what opportunities exist there. That's actually one thing, and that's why actually the talent generation is actually so very important. But the other thing, and that is we see, especially in this field of contribution, is indeed the idea about more startups coming out of the university. And that might be either through faculty members, but especially as well, indeed, through our students, right, who actually take their own idea now and actually go and say, okay, we start this one and start the process and basically transfer something to industry, and then basically by them partnering with other companies as well, maybe do a transfer in this thing. And as Dvira as well said, it's very important as well that in our programs over here, we foster this one. And that is, for example, by offering programs that actually do these professional skills, right? That really say project management, IP, all of these things actually expose our students to that one, right? And I think that is what we see as well in Toronto. We have it here in Waterloo, and I'm sure the other places do something like that as well. So this professional part, basically, we need to actually acknowledge the change of the transfer, right? I think that how that works for sure has really changed. And the other thing is as well, I want to say, as we foster, of course, collaboration between university and industry directly by doing directly links, and we said as well providing the infrastructure, we as well have to think about a little bit slowly ahead about the workforce that we're actually providing, because of course our PhD students is one type of the workforce. But we will actually need more as well of the workforce that are actually people in traditional engineering aspect that has the right quantum awareness to bring in there, right? And that is a different type of role that the universities need to prepare and adapt to this one as well.
Very, very important points. Thank you so much, Norbert. And Paul.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would echo a lot of what has been said already. Certainly, I think for me personally, as much as I want to believe that the specific, skills that we train our students with in the lab are important. It's really a broader overall kind of holistic training of HPP to learn how to, do work and research and just bring a lot of value to whichever company they go eventually work for if they follow that path. And this applies both on the experimental and the theoretical side. And I think there's many examples of people from, all walks of, quantum research in Calgary that have gone on to either form companies or work for companies to be very successful in Canada and internationally. If you look at 1Qubit or Xanadu anyways. I think, we also aim to break new ground and sort of do proof of principle, make proof of principle innovations in the area of nanofabrication that, can be adopted, maybe not today, but 5 years from now or longer by companies. So this can range from inventing, the qubit that's going to power the next generation of quantum computers to making better materials that are needed for quantum sensors. And there's examples of this already in Alberta, companies like Norcata and Applied Nanotools that they don't just do quantum research, but they're basically benefiting from, our efforts to build better devices to in many cases make much simpler structures that are useful already to industry. And then, echoing ideas related to supporting industry through providing access to infrastructure, which I guess is related to my last point. In Calgary, we're looking at things like innovation spaces, basically making it easy for industry to be near that infrastructure, and particularly for startups to benefit from it. And there.
Great, thank you very much, Paul. If you have time, I would love to ask you all about that very important point that you mentioned, that which facilities you think each one of your ecosystem have that's open to industries, and you're inviting industries to come use those facilities and start collaborating with you guys on that. But we leave it for kind of toward the end of this. And thank you so much, Paul. Rogério, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so on collaboration between academia and industry, what worked really well in BC was a creation of an organization. I would call it a grassroots organization of faculty members interested in quantum science and technology. That organization is called Quantum BC. And what this did for us is that this brought us together with common interests. And we applied for a CREATE grant. So the CREATE grant is an NSERC grant, a $1.6 million grant for 6 years, focused on training graduate students. So Quantum BC is an umbrella, and the CREATE grant ended up becoming a glue here for faculty working on different aspects of quantum science and technology. And what happens is that in the CREATE program, the students, they're required to do an internship in industry. And usually it's a Mitacs funded internship. And so as a result, we have about 10 to 20 students per year who are going into internships. Some of them will work on actual quantum industry. For example, my student is working on key sites at their quantum benchmark office in Waterloo. That was a perfect fit with her thesis. Other students are going to companies that are doing different things, different from their research. And again, back to what Norbert was pointed out, that's excellent because they open the eyes of their management about the possibilities in quantum technology. So the CREATE grant here really has taken us to a different level. And I know that other ecosystems have CREATE. In fact, we collaborate a lot with the Quebec one. It's called CQIQC. There we teach students, together with CQIQC, we teach students not only about quantum hardware and software, but also about commercialization, etc.
Excellent. No, great to hear that East and West, you're collaborating closely. This is great. And I'm sure that collaboration can be extended to the rest of the ecosystem, and that will benefit everybody. Thank you for providing your thoughts and comments on that. For next question, as John mentioned, our main role is being and building the bridge between industries and you guys. And I'd love to know what else would you like to see from us, basically, what you like to see from Mitacs as this catalyzing force between academia and industry. Perhaps we can start with you again, Christian.
Well, I mean, let's go with Rogerio, so that at least he'll have like time to speak and
Absolutely.
at the end.
We reversed the roles, so sure.
Yeah, that's actually, I actually do have a suggestion with this one, because what I've noticed is that, so first of all, the ecosystem for quantum science and technology is constantly evolving. So let me give you an example. When my student was interested in finding an internship, we were interested in a post-processing of quantum computing data to increase, so it's called error mitigation, right? And I didn't know that Quantum Benchmark was doing that. So it's Quantum Benchmark originally was doing benchmarking and expanded to other areas as well. And I think that Mitacs is already doing investment on that, but it has to extend the investment on reaching out to faculty and industry and establishing those connections. I think Mitacs can reach out more, because we have, each of us academics, we are in our own cave. We are busy with a bunch of things, and sometimes we're not aware of the fact that there's a company, say, in the other side of Canada that's interested in exactly what we're doing. So, I think for Mitacs to do this, they have to do an investment on knowledge of how of the technology. Okay, so for example, what is the status of quantum communication technology? What are the key questions? What is the, what needs to be done for them to become products, etc. And yeah, I think reaching out, Mitacs reaching out would really help, because often we just don't hear about what each other are doing.
Very important.
Reza, I'm going to intercede here because Rogerio makes a good point, and we've only really recently established Team Quantum. Reza's fairly new to the organization. Marie-Ève and May, they're all starting, but I mean, Christian can speak about Marie-Ève's qualifications, and Ebrahim can speak about Reza's qualifications. May, I'm not sure who her advisor was, but these are all PhDs in quantum science. And so we have the expertise now. It's, only within the last year we built this up, but it is the job of Reza, Marie-Ève, and May to actually reach out to the companies, reach out to the academics, and build the bridge. So excellent point. And I think we now have the team in place to start doing exactly what you want us to do.
Yeah. By the way, John, I've been talking to my SIG almost every week. And
good for you.
She's great, and I think she really understands that exactly what I just did, what I just said. To develop a strategic knowledge to make the connections, and she's doing a very good job of that.
Yep. But anyways, I encourage everyone on this webinar to reach out to one of our business development people. I mean, they get by in very little sleep, and so they can work very hard on your behalfs.
Great. Thank you very much, John. Yes, absolutely. We love to hear from you guys that are listening to us, joining us from anywhere. And yeah, happy to build that bridge, happy to talk on your behalf. Paul.
Yeah, so given this a fair amount of thought, I've benefited from myself being in internships as an undergraduate, and I've worked in industry during my postdoc. So I think it's a very valuable opportunity. And then for me, the challenge is how do we structure it so that the graduate students don't get that it happens at the right time of their degree, or ideally, somehow in a way which ties in with their PhD project. Is something that would be nice to see. But at the same time, I'm always very uncomfortable to tell a company what they should be doing. So if Mitacs can, I think, as Rogerio was saying, bring problems to us, we can see where there's a match. That's certainly a lot of value. I think there will be a lot of student-led startups in the next, 5 years, hopefully, or there already are, and that's going to continue. If Mitacs can somehow make it easier for those companies to get off the ground, that would be of obvious value. I had written down I'm getting undergraduates involved in quantum. I mean, it sounds like that's not necessarily, I wasn't unclear from what John had said earlier whether that's really what Mitacs is going for, but I think that has obvious value for everyone, for the entire ecosystem, because we lose a lot of the best students aren't going to quantum from University of Calgary. I think it's the same everywhere. So that would be fantastic as well.
Yeah, Paul, just very quickly, and I have to leave immediately after I say this. We can work with undergraduates in applied research projects. That's an expanded mandate that we were given by the federal government. But the other thing is the Global Link research interns, of course, are undergraduate students, and they're brought to Canada to work in Canadian labs and hopefully get recruited into Canadian graduate programs. So that's two ways we work with undergraduates. And with that, I'll say goodbye. Reza, you're doing a great job, and thanks all of you for attending.
Thank you, John. Thank you, and best of luck with your meeting with President. All right, excellent points, Paul. Thank you very much. Norbert.
Yeah, thank you. I think basically one thing is as well, and that has something to do as well with this change in basically how universities and industry interacts. I think it's very important as well to encourage Mitacs to continue as well the flexibility in the programs. Right, the programs have to change, right? So we don't have the one PhD student at some point going to this company over here. It's really, and I'm really glad to see that indeed you're taking steps to make this flexible. First, about the time from having the idea that we want to do this one to actually doing it, this time comes down. Your ideas of framework agreements that we can actually do this collaboration with the university and industry, basically really in frameworks like pre-approved things. That is really, I think, very useful. And as well, we think another thing is really the flexibility over here, that if we have a startup coming out of a university, right, then very often, it still has one leg in each of the world. So, which sometimes give formal problems for Mitacs actually to support that work, right? Because it's designed for two clearly separate units. So how do we handle that one? But I'm very really supportive about all the steps that Mitacs is taking to address that one. And I think basically for our audience, I mean, this is really the important thing, right? For our audience as well to realize that these opportunities even exist, I think is very important, right? And that really that we say, because that Reza is basically one of the mandate to have to build up the quantum workforce, that these tools actually come into existence, really support all our activities in a more flexible way. That is really great to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Norbert. Very important points, and flexibility is exactly what we are asking for. And we do have, we have a mandate as well, and I'm sure you know that. And this is what we really are asking to see more, especially flexibility, because of the nature of this field and how new and young it is. And yeah, workforce development is definitely our mandate, and we will be working hard to contribute as much as possible to the field all across Canada. Thank you very much, Norbert. And Dvira, please.
So yeah, the points we already mentioned, the need for flexibility, helping with building connections. I just wanted to mention that, so I will not repeat them. I wanted to mention that obviously in the GTA in Toronto and beyond in Ontario, it's obvious that Mitacs had filled a huge gap. We see that, yeah, we've already utilized or overutilized the funding, because indeed there is a great need for, I would focus on the graduating students who are shifting their focus to industry, to startups. They are looking for positions that help them make these transitions, and Mitacs is doing a great job here. So I would just focus on maybe just having more of these positions, given all the points that were already mentioned, because it's clear that there is a need for that.
Thank you. Absolutely, there is need for that, for sure. And we are doing our best to, to expand what we're doing in Ontario and all across Canada. I know we are a little bit over time, but if that's fine with you guys, I know Ebrahim has to leave. We will finish with this question for him, but we will stay a few more minutes. And please feel free to add your questions to our chat box, and we definitely will get to them. I will answer you via email. We have your emails, so that's good. And we will send you the presentation after this meeting. Ebrahim, please, before, I know you have to leave, but we have a few more minutes, I guess.
Thank you, Reza. So, well, I will categorize in three ways. One, I mean, my colleagues, they touch almost all of them. So one is having really an excellent database and need for the country. So which I will go definitely with that. My colleagues, they touch these. So as I mean, you started to work on these, John mentioned that is early, but we are expecting that within a couple of years, we will have really good database of the country and ecosystem and what is needed and what are the expertise of each point. I mean, we do collaborations. I want to emphasize that University of Ottawa is collaborating almost with all of these 5 centers or institutes, and we have is the researchers that they are working together. So it's one database. The other one is the mobilizations. So knowledge mobilization, which is we are encouraging that the knowledge will be transferred from, let's say, even international partners to come to the country, or letting the two, let's say, research fields to interact with each other. So this is another point which Mitacs may help. And the last one, which I don't know this is the right place because we discussed this in other meetings, is, well, this requirement of 1-1 matching is really annoying because, well, it's a chicken egg problem. You are expecting to have industry or startups, and we are only helping specific, let's say, industry. We are not helping to create more startups and helping the ecosystem. So I will say this is really great that you guys, you are listening to us and providing the feedback to let's say, higher level ranking. So I will encourage you really to have this part to be reconsidered again, or at least having a streamline, which is allowing to have startups without requirement of matching from industry or private sectors. And
Absolutely.
My apologies, I have to leave for another meeting. I'm already 4 minutes late.
Thank you, Ebrahim. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we are definitely working on that 1-to-1 matching requirements. We hear you, and we totally understand that because of the nature of the field, that might not be the best model, honestly, for quantum, because there are not that many industries that are willing to match with industry dollars. And absolutely, we are working on it. Thank you very much, Ebrahim. Bye. Bye. And about the database, it is very important. We are definitely working on that one as well. We do have a Quantum Canada network channel now that we are hoping that it can get, be more utilized and expanded. And through that channel, we can have more information about the ecosystem and the landscape, honestly. Christian, same question, please.
All right, thank you. So, well, Mitacs is already doing great things. I think the example of the CREATE programs, for example, the QCITEC one that we had here, where we offer internship, like graduate studies, internship in companies and in partnership with Mitacs, has been really successful in giving the grad students like new skills and new opportunities and new perspectives on even on their own project. When they're coming back with the new energy, new ideas, new ways of thinking about their PhD. So this has been really successful, but I agree with Paul that you really need to find the right moment during their grad studies as to integrate this internship, but it's been pretty successful working with Mitacs on this. One thing that also Mitacs is doing well, but I wonder if we could do more, I think it's international work. So international outreach into getting more talent inside Canada. Well, I'll spin it in a way that we're like here in Quebec, I think we have a bigger problem than the rest of Canada in terms of immigration. So it's kind of a roadblock as well as getting talent in Quebec. So we've got a problem at the federal level and the provincial level as well. So it might be less for the other provinces, but it is something that Mitacs could play a role as well as bringing that talent, but also explaining why this is so important, try to like lessen the burden in terms of attracting talent here in Canada. That would be fantastic, because right now, I mean, we've got more positions, I think, that we can fill in, and the hurdle is really to getting that talent in Canada. So if Mitacs could be our champion towards this, like, I'll be more than happy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Excellent point. Absolutely. And we do have that GR channels basically for bringing international students, but of course, there's so much you can do. And we all know that there quantum talent and the competition, over having the best, toppest, brightest talent is the main challenge right now in the world. And definitely Mitacs and Canada in general, in its whole, we can do definitely better to have, to retain those top quantum talent for sure. And Mitacs, we will pay a special attention to quantum talent, especially when it comes to international. Thank you very much, guys. I know we are a little bit over time, but if there is anything you want to add, that's the time. If there's any industry you are inviting to come work with you, I think now we have time for that. Please feel free to unmute yourself and tell us.
Well, if I can, I think one key point here is that we feel like separate ecosystems in a way. But I think one key aspect of Canada is how we work all well together. So I think what I would tell the audience and convey to the audience, here you're not having silos ecosystem not working together. That's been a key aspect of the research happening in Canada is how we work all well together. So that would be my ending message, is that don't see it as separate ecosystem. We all know each other. It's a very big country, but it's a small community, and there's so much collaboration going on. I think it's a key aspect of how research and innovation is actually happening in Canada.
Wonderful, very important points. Yes, please, Norbert.
Yeah, maybe I said I think that's indeed a one very important point. That indeed we work together, and that if we talk to one, that's part of for university. We are a big sorting organization, right? So if it's not, we are not the right fit, we probably know for whom who would be a right fit. But as well as the other thing is about that, because I noticed in the chat was as well one of the questions, but how to start a collaboration with the university, right? I mean, it's obviously one thing is just to basically formulate the problem you want to address, and you can talk to Mitacs to help to find a partner. Or if you already know about some partner or working in that area, as well, really feel free just directly reach out as well as to university researcher, and then we can basically bring Mitacs in jointly. So you have at least two different paths that can lead to success, right? Maybe even more, but at least that are the two basic processes over here. And again, all of those processes, as we said, basically it is very important. You talk to one, and the answer might be, I'm not the right one, but here I know, here I know my colleague. And then we for sure we had to establish the right contacts.
Absolutely, Norbert. And yes, there's Mitacs way to reach out to these ecosystems to have access to this great quantum talent in Canada. Another way is if you like to directly talk to them, now you know the right people to talk to and send an email and get in touch with. We will share that presentation. Their contact information is stated there. You can directly talk to them. Or if you like Mitacs to be the bridge between you and these industries, we can do that as well. We are happy to do that. We do have basically lots of information about the ecosystem. We can connect you to the right people, right universities. And yeah, there are many ways to do. And I'm sure these ecosystems are happy to get in touch with you and start some great university, academic, and industrial collaboration, especially on the quantum field. Thank you very much. I know we are like 10 minutes over time, but this was great. I learned so much, and I'm sure our audience learned more about Canadian quantum ecosystem. We will be in touch with you. If there is any special topics that you'd like us to cover in the next Mitacs quantum webinar series, please let us know. You have my email now, and always happy to talk on LinkedIn or I don't know, Twitter, anywhere. We are very much active on all of those. We will answer your questions that are in Q&A right now via email, since we haven't had time for that. And please get in touch. And until next time and next webinar, stay safe. And thank you very much for joining us today. Goodbye.